Hey friends! Okay, so I thought it would be a lot of fun if we did an edit together, or me edit, you watch. And I can give you a little sneak peek into kind of like how I would edit a in studio image. I don't do a lot of in studio work, but I definitely have been kind of playing around with some different things, and I've like totally fallen in love with my Rove light. And so I've gotten a little crazy. I've been doing a lot of it. So, okay, here is a raw, straight out of camera image, and the first thing I'm probably going to do is crop the image down. So I'm going to use my crop tool, make sure that I don't have this thing locked. I actually like to freehand crop. I do not like the aspect ratio thing, which is probably one day going to get me into some trouble when people go to print something and it doesn't print like they want. But anyways, we'll cross that bridge. It's been a couple years and I haven't had a problem yet, and I'll just leave it at that. So technically it's supposed to be on the rule of thirds, and to me the rule of thirds looks crazy. Like this is a proper rule. We want to be drawn to her eyes, her face. I'm just not feeling that. So here's the way I would freehand crop it. Hi, Rhiannon. Anyways, and that's just my deal. Okay, and I definitely want to do a little bit more of a moodier vibe on this. So I'm going to actually take my exposure down and just kind of take a look and see how I like that. But actually what I should have done before I took my exposure down was actually applied the Mastin preset, because this is showing you a Mastin edit. And so I'm going to edit her with Porta. And just so you guys understand, Porta 400 is really great for Caucasian skin. I love it, but I do not use it for people of color because it just has too much yellow in it. And I do find myself even now on Caucasian skin playing around with the tint. So I'm just going to zoom in on her face, and I'm going for a certain look here, which, like I said, is a little bit moodier. So I'm going to bump down my exposure here, and I'm going to play a little bit in contrast. So this right now, Mastin takes the contrast to about 90. And let's just play with the slider and see what it does. So if I were to take that down, look how crazy that looks. So I actually want to go somewhere in like the 50 range. About there. Let's see how that looks. Let's pull it back and see. Maybe a little bit more. Let's try the 70 range. So I'm kind of digging that. Okay. And I actually might crop from her gene level too. I don't like the way that's sitting. Right about there. Yeah, I actually like that better. I'd be curious to know what you guys thought. The one thing I could say is I wish the hair light was a little bit stronger here, but it's not, so that's okay. And then I know I just said I'm going to take the contrast down, but it's kind of bugging me. I want a little bit. I'm so used to having a lot of contrast in my images that I think I do like it like that. All right, so then the Porta 400 is already kind of warm because it has a lot of yellows in it. So I normally just kind of, if I'm going to add any, I'm going to add a little. Right about there. And then the next thing I do is I actually am going to do some smoothing on her skin. So I'm going to soften her skin up a little bit just by using like a brush. And when I do this, I do take it down just a bit because I don't want it to be so smooth that it doesn't look realistic. So if I pull back on that, it doesn't look realistic to me. So I normally take this down to about 50 or so on the skin smooth, and see now that looks pretty realistic there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up some things. So just do some quick little skin touch up. Boom. she's already beautiful, so there really is not that much to do. Like what I'm doing now is just kind of being like a little nitpicky, honestly. Um, so let's see here if I see anything else. And the one thing that I don't like to do is I don't play in moles. I don't like to take away moles because moles are part of like your legit face. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, here, let's see what else we got. And again, I'm just kind of nitpicking. Let's pull back there. And this is probably about where I'd say I like it. I mean, I may play around in the exposure just a tad bit more. Because I want it to have a moody look, but I don't want it to be too dark. And then because I had to shoot at such a closed aperture, I just want to make sure I don't have any like wrinkles showing up in the background. So I'm going to take some exposure and just brush it on here. And I can do a show mask overlay to make sure that I am covering the areas that I want to cover, making sure I don't cover on her. That's a great thing too. Another thing you have to be careful with when you're doing this is you don't want there to be a glow around her. So it's really important to not like get too much on her. Sometimes I do cheat and just put a little bit, but that's only because I want it to kind of blend nicely. I just don't want her to have that weird looking halo you see in some folks' images, maybe even some of mine. And I'm going to take the exposure and just bump it down. Bam. And one last thing, and that is, no, I think I'm done. You guys, I like this picture a lot. I love the hair light. I love everything about it. So here's another example of one I just did with it has a little bit more of a brighter vibe on it. And this one I think is just a tad bit moodier. Yeah, maybe bump up some temp on her. Make sure she is still staying with somewhat in the series. But yeah, that's it. I love it. I'd be curious to see what you guys thought. All right, you guys take care.